I'm Ainsley from the CTLT, and I'd like to welcome you to this session, Risk and Reward, Augmenting Teaching Practices to Support Student Wellbeing. And Sally Willis-Stewart is going to be presenting today with some co-facilitators that she'll introduce a little later in the session. Sally is an associate professor of teaching in the School of Health and Exercise Sciences at UBC. She and her co-facilitators are excited to share their insights and reflections on the Teachers Project. And that's a research initiative developed to facilitate implementation of simple, efficient, and effective well-being strategies into a variety of classrooms, from engineering to psychology and health sciences to chemistry. And they're going to invite you to engage in some discussion with them today about what might work best to embed well-being practices for students in your courses. So welcome very much to everyone, and I'll let Sally take it from here.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ainsley, for the introduction. And I'm really excited to see lots of people here. It's always a busy time, no matter what. Spring projects seem to catch up on us, but I really appreciate you being here. And I hope that you will take some wonderful ideas away with you today. And I think, there's sort of this positive sort of anticipation in the air with, sort of the startup and going back face to face, but still with all the doubts. But I just hopefully you're feeling a little bit excited and inspired. And I hope at the end of this session too, you've got some neat ideas and a little bit more inspiration of things that you might be able to take into your classrooms for the upcoming year. So before we get started, let's just start with our land acknowledgement. So we can go to the next slide. And I'm quite excited to share this with you because over the weekend there's a little Canvas course on writing land acknowledgements and understanding them, and I must say that it's really made a big impact on me. So I'm quite excited to share the land acknowledgement with you this morning. So as we start our session today, let us do so with intent, acknowledgement, and gratitude. We are gathering here on the unceded territory of the Silks Okanagan Nation, and also many of us in the traditional ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam people as guests for most of us. I am so grateful to be able to live, work, and play on these beautiful lands. As I learn more of the history of these lands and host people, I have moved from thoughts of, wow, look how lucky I am to live here, as I run along a lakeshore or in the park or see the lovely view from my office window, to more intentional thoughts of, I have so much gratitude and respect for the people in this land, and I feel a responsibility and an excitement to care and to act. My mom always said to me that if I was a guest anywhere, to always leave the place and or people better than before I came. This statement has much more meaning to me now as I realize and understand that I am a guest on the very lands I have known all my life. My intent in this session, and I invite you to join me, is working on strengthening the relationship with our host nations by me teaching about and sharing, and us all practicing and sharing the health knowledge and skills that we can include in our classroom to take care of our students and peoples as best we can. Thank you. All right, so let's go on to the next slide, please, Ainsley. So just a little bit of overview of our session today. So we're going to tell you about the Teachers Project. We're going to tell you why we did it, what it was all about, and the results. So we're really excited to share the rewards of this project with you. Then we're going to spend some time in some breakout rooms and discussion to really share the practices and to give you some insight and opportunity to kind of delve into these practices. So hopefully you get some ideas to take away with you, and looking forward to some good discussions around that. And then we'll sort of end the session with discussing and challenging some of the risks that might come up with what we did with this project. And then of course, we're really keen to share some resources with you that you'll be able to take away. So, okay, so let's go to the next slide. Thanks, Ainsley. Okay, so the Teachers Project. I love acronyms, so here we go. Training and engaging academics, that's you, in their classrooms to positively impact health, education, and the resiliency of our students. So why did we do this? We know that UBC is committed to student well-being and learning. It's in all of the documents that we see, the strategic plan, the Aspire. It's well proven that well-being contributes to learning and that the classroom environment and instructors can positively impact student well-being. And I know that's why you're all here. We know this, so we don't need to spend time on going over that. So we want to dive right in. But I think one of the things is that we've got busy classrooms. Our classes, the content is full. You've got so much to do. So we don't need more to do. And if health and well-being isn't your area of expertise, then how are you supposed to implement that into your classroom? And so that's what this teachers project was all about. So the goal was to train and to support faculty, whether it's your area of expertise or not, to address well-being in your classroom with simple and evidence-based interventions. So the idea was for this just to become a way of teaching, something simply that you can learn in a couple of minutes, adapt it for you, your classroom, your students, your style of teaching, what you're comfortable with, get the support to do it, and then go ahead and do it. So that's what this project was all about, because we all know we don't need more to do, right? But if we have the support to do something, then we're more likely to do it. It's kind of like technology is not my thing, right? So we learned that at the beginning here at Ainsley. So if just somebody can just show me what button do I press, then I'm okay. So that's kind of what this teachers project was all about. Can we just show you the button to press and away you go? And then you have an opportunity. So every classroom that a student goes into, they know that there is something going on to support their well-being. One of the ways this project started was about 4 years ago, I developed a course called Heal 100. And it is a course completely dedicated to helping students learn some knowledge about health and the skills about health so they can become well, contribute to their academic success. But I'm going, well, not every student takes that course. I'd like them to, but they don't all take it. So how can we make sure that every single classroom that they go into is somehow supporting their well-being? And so that's how basically the Teachers Project was born. All right, next slide, Ainsley. All right. So as I just made a little statement there before, evidence does show that if faculty have the support, that they will and can do it. So that's what this is all about. So we did a pilot a year ago. And so Dr. Mara Friedman from chemistry and Jamie Piercy from psychology and myself were involved in that. And both Tamara and Jamie are here today and will be helping us in the breakout rooms. And we did specific targeted interventions. And then we did some student surveys at the end of the course to find out the impact on them. And then we also chatted and interviewed the faculty focus groups. So it was very successful. So we went into phase 2, which just happened this past winter term. And we had way more people involved. So we had faculty from UBC Okanagan, UBC Vancouver, and we also had a number of faculty involved from Capilano University. So we had 15 faculty members, so a number of different diverse courses from first to fourth year and lots of different programs. And we did have REB approval to do this. And we were also supported by the Provost Office and a seed grant, which was super, super helpful. So, so I want to share some of the results with you and kind of some specifics about what we did. Okay, next slide, Ainsley. All right, so when I say the targeted intervention, so we looked at kind of basically 3 course areas. So the interventions that we did in the classroom were either around course logistics, so things like the course outline or things around marking and assignments and due dates and things like that. So a little bit about flexible grading or student input into grading and assignment due dates. So we called that course logistics. The second thing was around more instructor approaches, just sort of kind of their way of teaching. And we also involved basically some intentional kindness and compassion, more transparency, items like that. The third area of the targeted interventions was around actual activities. So these are things like movement breaks, stand-up desk, intentional arrival. So those were generally the three categories of the targeted interventions that we did. But within those, there was so much variability, so much room for adaptation. And that's what I mean by these are simple areas, but then every instructor can take it and adapt it to make it work for them, their teaching style, their class, what they think would work well for them. But then they had that support from our research team to help them do that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now just before I jump into sort of the rewards or the great results that we had, is there anything coming up with questions or anything yet that anybody needs some clarification before I keep rambling on? Anything in the chat there? Nothing yet? All right. Okay, I will keep going. So please don't hesitate to jump in. I would love to hear any input or questions. So what we found, so these are rewards, and it was extremely rewarding. So as I say, faculty chose what intervention worked best for them and their course and teaching style. And the biggest thing was in the student surveys is students noticed. And one of the neat things about that is it brings a feeling of care. The students felt cared for, that they were important. And we see in the literature when students have that feeling that they're so much more likely to engage in the class. They feel supported, they feel more connected to the professor, and that helps with learning. The other thing we also saw was a greater class enjoyment and sense of community. And again, if students feel that, they're more likely to come to class, and thus they're going to learn better. Faculty, the faculty felt supported in doing the intervention. They felt it was easy to implement. They enjoyed more of the student interaction and felt more connected. And it also helped their own well-being. So some wonderful rewards there. Okay, next slide.
There was a question,
okay,
Sally,
perfect.
just
Thank
as
you.
soon as we went on. And the question is, what do you mean by intentional arrival?
Okay, so if you bear with me for a minute, we are going to get to the specifics of the intentional arrival. But basically, it's when the students are coming into the class, we're doing an activity that really gets them focusing on the class. Let's leave wherever they were coming from before, but they're coming to the class. This is where we are. And it could be anything from doing a wellness check-in to just, writing a checklist so they're here and mindful. It's almost a way of welcoming them to the class, that you're here, you matter, and we want you to get the most out of the class. Okay. And again, there's lots of different ways that we can do an intentional arrival. So those are what we'll share in the breakout session. Okay, thanks, Ainsley. All right, so looking sort of at your left-hand side of the screen, the general results. So lots of picky details, but generally we found that over 70%, a minimum of 70% of the students noticed the intervention. Also, a minimum of 70% of the students stated that they agreed or strongly agreed with each of the evaluation components of the intervention. So now looking at the top right-hand side of the screen, these are the areas that we asked students about. So we asked them, did this intervention help you enjoy the class more? Did it help you focus more in class? Did it help you engage? Did it make you feel that your well-being was supported? Did it help increase your feelings of sense of community in the classroom? And if your instructor didn't do that particular intervention, would you have wanted to see it in the class? Okay, because not all instructors did all the interventions. They might have chosen one or two. Okay. So there were some interesting results around that question, and I'll share those with you a little bit later. Okay, so some of this, again, the specific interventions that we did movement breaks, intentional arrivals, intentional kindness, approachable instructor. We did some grading input and some course outline wording to be more positive and inclusive. So really very positive results with seeing, again, the majority of the students really appreciating that. All right, let's go to the next slide, please, Ainsley. Okay, so just before now we go into the breakout sessions, and this is where we're going to explain more about the targeted interventions and give you an opportunity to ask questions, discuss, think of your ideas, and think about what you might be able to do in your class or feel comfortable doing. Is there any other questions or comments coming up for us in the chat there?
No questions in the chat. Does anyone want to unmute or raise their hand?
Yeah, please feel welcome to. I love the input, whether us all being silent, especially when I can't see you, I just see my slides. So anything? Yeah, okay.
Doesn't appear to be anybody raising their hand. I think we're all set to go ahead.
All right, lovely. Okay, so I just do see one about something. What class sizes were these for? Okay, so again, we had a variety of classes and class sizes, and we had classes all the way up to 200 students, I believe was our largest. Tamara, yours wasn't bigger than 200, was it?
It was almost 260. It was 257, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, but my class was 400.
Oh my gosh.
Mine was 300.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And mine was 2. And again, right down to classes of about 40. So yeah, we had the full gamut. So thank you. All right. So what we're going to do then, we're going to put, I see we've got about kind of 35 of us here. So we're going to go into 3 breakout rooms, and either Tamara, Jamie, or myself will be with you to discuss and explain some of the interventions. All right. Thank you, Rachel, for getting us all back here. Now, can somebody just give me a time cue? Where are we at here?
It's 11:45. I don't know what we're scheduled until. Is this just going until 12?
Yeah, it's okay. So we just have an hour then. So now that we're all back into this main group, I know our conversations always seem to get cut off a little bit short there, but I would just like to continue the conversation a little bit more. So is there anything coming up in the chat? Does anybody want to unmute, add comments, questions, so we can just carry this on so everybody is happy to hear? I think I see Tamara, you've got a hand up, so go ahead.
Sally, I believe it was Sonia, and my apology if it might not have been, who was in my group, that in our first breakout, she raised what I thought was a very important discussion, and she only was able to start the front of it. And I'd encourage her to perhaps raise that now, because I think it's also an important part of all of this. Sonia, I think it was you.
Sure. Hi. I was just trying to share, it's kind of a little bit of an experience, but also a question. So how can racialized instructors or assistant profs be or feel more supported? So I'm visibly racialized, I'm Indigenous, Afro-descendant, Latina, and I've taught in the teacher education program, which is, it's coming out very publicly, or known to be quite a race experience. We have very diverse cohorts, but there's a lot of resistance from students. So there were, I think, the experiences that white instructors have versus doing wellness activities like movement and using music are very different from both the student perspective and the faculty perspective. So I had a question, like I would love to add in a flex day. There was the lead of our chat that said they did that. I would feel completely terrified that I would in some way be reprimanded by my department head or something like that, by taking such freedoms, I guess, or liberties. Another example is I would play reggaeton or rap, or I would definitely draw from my culture at the beginning of the class and play music. And students could move, or they could, if they're uncomfortable with that, like try to analyze a bit of the lyric or whatever. There were different options of how they could participate to break the ice. But there were a lot of, moments that still occurred. Overall, I guess I've been more lucky even than some of my peers, but I guess just how can we feel more supported in leading wellness activities that feel right to us? And also, so I would never feel okay just throwing in like flex days because I'm so scared, So I just wanted to keep it real on that level.
Right. Yeah. And again, this is Sonia, really thank you very much for bringing that up. And these are some of the risks, right? Because, when we're doing this, we still have the students going, well, that's a waste of time. Right. And so we're always going to get some of these resistances. And I think it's really important to also recognize the cultural aspects in there. And it's actually where we want to take our phase 3 more, because one of the things that we did realize, like even things with the intentional kindness, is that more of a gender thing with females, and does it bring across, and does it make us look more like easier profs and things like that? So these are some of the risks and things that we want to investigate a little bit more. And also too, with leading some of the activities, again, what do we feel more comfortable doing, or that are based on our cultural or the cultural and backgrounds of our students in the classroom? Like, how are they going to receive them? They might receive them differently because of their cultural upbringing. And so these are absolutely things that we need to look into more detail. And these are where the risk comes in. But I think one of the things that, to back it up or to help, like if you did do that flex day, is know that you're doing it a place from evidence-based. And to me, that would be like, if anybody questioned you on that, then that's the point that I would come from. So if you're doing this because it's from an evidence-based practice that shows promise. So that is why you're doing it. And why would it be any difference for me to do this than another prof that has also done it? So I think that's where it would come from. And then I would also hope that from us as being the lead investigators on this project, is that I hope that you could draw support from us. So if you were being challenged, that we could come and help and speak up for you. And so I would hope that would be some support as well, because that's what we want to do. We want to encourage more profs and faculty member to try things in their class that we're seeing as evidence-based in supporting students' well-being. And again, not all students are going to be receptive to it, but if the majority are, we can't please everybody, even though that's our goal. And no matter what we do, even without doing these well-being things in the classroom, students don't like everything that we do. Students don't like the way we teach or the way we talk or this or that, right? So we can't please everybody. But if we know that we're doing this and trying this from an evidence-based perspective that helps learning, hopefully that can be our, our foundational support. But then you also have the support, I'm hoping, of feeling that support from the faculty, the people that have been involved in the study.
I think there was a raised hand from a Derek.
Yeah,
Yes,
hi, good morning. So thank you so much for, I feel really inspired by listening to different interventions. I have one question just regarding for the, how, kind of like the process, how you decided which interventions to try with the students, faculty. So I wondered like whether based on previous like literatures or from your experiences. So I wonder what's the process for you, how to decide which interventions to try?
Right, okay, thank you, Derek. Really good question. Yes, so part of it was from, again, my background in health and exercise sciences and being in the education leadership. This has been my focus of education leadership, is trying to link like well-being and academic success. Again, how we came to this then was based on, again, my background in the area, looking into the literature about evidence-based activities in the classroom that seem to support well-being as well as learning. That's how we came to those 3 broad areas. And then that's, kind of where we had these ideas, but then we were able to modify it with working with instructors personally to what they felt comfortable with and their ideas as well. So, so it was evidence-based in terms of those 3 major areas of interventions. The other thing too around those is that it also recognizes the different aspects of well-being. You know, if we look at all the 6 dimensions of well-being, you know, there's physical, there's spiritual, there's emotional and social. And so these interventions and areas might not hit all of those, but they're going to at least hit 1 or 2 of those dimensions of well-being. And if we're working on all of those dimensions of well-being, that's building our resiliency and helping us contribute to academic success. And so again, that was sort of coming from my my Heal 100 class as well.
I saw Tamara number 2 was fairly excited with the beginnings of your comment there and had something to add.
Okay, Tamara, go ahead.
Thank you. Just in response to Derek's question about how did you choose, I was an instructor that was really keen to take part in this. Sally had done a presentation, a health and wellness style of presentation, and about bringing wellness into the classroom at a CTL session. I think it was at a CTL session that, and I've had the opportunity, the great fortune to actually sit in one of Sally's classes in the open classroom weeks that we used to have. So I had seen her use some of these already, but she went through the gamut of the various things you could do. And honestly, it seemed overwhelming at first until I stepped back, and as the other Tamara 1 commented in one of the earlier sessions, it was about looking at it and realizing if I looked at each of these items, and Sally has a beautiful little grid, a little list that she provided me. And when I looked at each one, I thought, I already do some of that. I already do some of that. And I thought, and some of it I was very intentional about. And I thought, if I could somehow bring those in as a more formal part of this project and get feedback on how that's working, because I didn't know if some of these things I was already doing were having an impact that I hope they would. But I also stretched myself. I just wanted to share a little story here. And I had this discussion with Sally as a debrief. I hope you don't mind, Sally, that I'm sharing this example. But I said this intentional arrival idea, all due respect, I think I'm old school perhaps, but why should we be giving time at the beginning of our class when we are already strapped for time with students and we already have a hard time getting through things? How do we justify giving up a few minutes? And I saw somebody comment in the chat, students will nail you on your evaluations, all of that, and they think you're wasting time. Why should I have to give 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of a class to ask students to get comfortable, to be ready, to put their phones away? To me, the way I was brought up, you show up early, you show up ready. And so it kind of went against what was ingrained for me. So I actually challenged myself to add intentional arrivals, which is something that I probably had a more difficult time accepting as a good intention piece. I was doing it for the right reasons, but I wanted to see if I could convince myself, but also if I could see the difference and see the feedback. I haven't yet seen, today's the first sort of feedback that I recall seeing on this. And I'm sorry, Sally, if you might have sent something out that I haven't seen, but I do believe, even just in my experience with my classes in doing intentional arrival, that they actually liked it. In fact, after it was the first or second time that I did an intentional arrival, I had a slide at the beginning saying, get a healthy snack and a beverage to stay hydrated, and put your phone, check your phone, check your messages, make a to-do list to deal with after class, find a quiet space, all of that, and come prepared. I would have that up, and then gradually I was putting it earlier and earlier, to the point where when I was logging on before class, the slide was up, and when class was ready to start, I'd start class and I wouldn't spend any time on it because I had sort of conditioned the students, is this what we're doing? But it was the first or second time I had even used it. I had a student email me right away and say, that was so fantastic. Can I borrow that slide and use that for a student meeting that I'm having coming up? I mean, it was immediately impactful. So my advice would be, if you were interested in exploring more of this with Sally, get the list from her, have a look through it. Recognize you are already doing some of the things, but challenge yourself to do something that you think maybe wouldn't work as well, and you're wondering. It was really enlightening for me. So just as far as when Derek brought up that point of how do you pick something that's a bit uncomfortable for you, but realize that a lot of it you're already doing.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Tamara, for sharing that. And it is one thing that I did sort of want to bring up near the end here is that, again, you're here because you already know the value of well-being for students. And so you probably are already doing something. And so as you look, maybe it's helped you organize your thoughts a little bit about the different categories of things that you can do and kind of see and look at what you were doing. And then how can you just maybe be a little bit more intentional about it, modify it a little bit, challenge yourself a little bit to try something different too. So we will be sharing the slides, the different activities, and so you all will be getting those as well. Ainsley, could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. So some of these are already coming up already, like Tamara just commented upon on the perceptions of available time. And, you're thinking, okay, we're already packed. But again, the intentional arrival, if you're setting this right out at the start of the class, students know, and they start coming earlier and getting ready or start doing it before the class. And so, or if you're doing a movement break in the middle of the class, I think, well, this is a waste of time. But if they start understanding why and they realize that they're able to concentrate more, your class becomes more efficient. Some felt it was making people a little bit more vulnerable, both the professor as well as the students, in terms of if it was online, if it was privacy, if it's moving in the class and you're not comfortable. But again, figuring out and asking us for support, and feeling the comfort, what is going to work best? Like the question we had, when you're squished in those desks, what can work best for your scenario, for your comfort, for what you think the students are comfortable with? And you can absolutely ask them. Okay. Some of the things a bit around inclusion, and I think Sonia, you brought that up one really, really well, and something that we have to look at a little bit more closely. I know Robin is here from Capilano University, and his intentional arrival was doing a song of the day, and he had the students choosing the songs. And so again, Sonia, I'm thinking about you, you choosing some of the songs, to some of your other students choose some of the song, and that's your intentional arrival. So there absolutely are some risks, but I'm hoping that you feel confident with seeing that we're going from a place that's evidence-based here, but it's simple. You're already doing some things. So how can you be more intentional about it? Get some more ideas. We'll share the resources with you. And I'm hoping that you'll reach out to myself and the others in this study. And we're more than happy to help you so you feel comfortable doing what you want to do. And actually, Ainsley, if you could go to the next slide there for me, please. Some of our next steps is we really want to continue, like now and through the fall, is really disseminating this more, is continuing to support and training faculty, whether it's through workshops, through new faculty orientation. I would even come to specific departments or even just reaching out to us individually. So I'm really hoping that you'll help spread this ripple effect of these interventions and encourage others to reach out to us to help get it out there. So every class student is going to, that their well-being is feeling supported. So I want to thank you all.